Hello everybody, this is Serpent and welcome back to another episode in Minecraft. In this one I'll be showing you how to make this automatic pillager farm. It's not quite automatic though because you still have to kill them. That's going to be the same for any pillager farm though, because in order to get their good drops, the emeralds, you have to kill them by hand. So, basically, this farm works by having a whole bunch of spawning platforms, and I figured out the spawning mechanics and everything, so these should be pretty efficient spawning platforms. Except, during the course of building this, I accidentally, I was going to begin by, my original plan was to use slime block flying machines to push the pillagers across, but then I figured out a much better way of doing that, and I didn't, and so I abandoned the flying machines. However, these platforms here were then built, and I didn't want to rebuild them, so we have a 3-block gap here, 1, 2, 3, where in reality we only need a 2-block gap. So if you're building this farm, that's something to keep in mind. You can pack these layers 1 block further together, so that the next layer starts here, and that'll allow you to get more layers in, more spawning platforms, more efficiency. But basically the rest of it's all the same. You would just compact these a little further as well. Like I said, the pillagers spawn here, and then they chase after the villagers, fall down these pits, and are pushed over into these water streams. The water streams then drag them all the way up to the top there, where the player is sitting, and the player can hack them to bits. And then there's just a collection system. The collection system is, this whole area. You can see I'm going for the villagers there. This whole collection system thing is kind of poorly done, but it's good enough to work, and if you wanted, you could easily improve upon it. Mostly, that's not what I'm doing this tutorial about, though. It's mostly the rest of that stuff. So, with that said, let's get on with building it. So the first thing you need to do is figure out where your bounding box is. I've put out a little video on this in a different video already, but this one, it's not a difficult step really. So the bounding box, if you turn on chunk boundaries, will be located, and it will fill up the area within a 3x3 chunk boundary around your center tower, and it will the top boundary will include this level here, 1 block above the top of this tower, and the lower edge will be directly beneath this this part here, the wood. So once you've found that area, you need to start clearing it out, because we are going to be chucking in some platforms for the pillagers to spawn on, and in order for that to work, in order for us to be able to do that, we need some space. So get rid of all these trees and things; they aren't necessary. This lower edge of the bounding box, though, you can keep it if it's dirt or something, because that way the grass will spread back and you don't have to replace it or anything. So just shave off this top layer of dirt until you get down to the bounding box beneath, and make the bounding box dirt, obviously, because that's what they have to spawn on, or grass. But one way or another, grass will get there. So that's what our bounding box looks like now. And I thought for the moment that I would take a look at just a bit more about how the things spawn, how the pillagers spawn. So you can see that now they're all despawned and they won't come back into existence because there is no bounding box with spawning spaces. And I thought now it would be a good time to just take a look at what blocks they can spawn on. So I'm going to do another fill command, which is something you should be doing anyway, except, with pickaxes and not a fill command. And I'm going to be turning this ground here into dirt. So can they spawn on dirt is a question. Let's clear the mob cap. And doesn't seem that they can. Interesting. So I have cleared out a little bit more land here, and if you're wondering what level this is, and you should be because that's the only way you'll be able to build this, then this level right here is where my glass used to be. And I've gone one more level down and then put grass in here, and they still spawn in that. So that's going to maximize the number of platforms that we can fit in this thing. So that's all good. Make sure you've done that then. So now that you've found the level at which your floor should begin, you need to start building the next layer by going up 3 blocks and then another grass block. Now you would be able to just place 2 blocks. They can spawn in that gap, but since we're going to be pushing them off with flying machines, slime block machines, you can't actually do that because they would stick to the grass blocks. So instead, start by just making this a solid lump of grass all the way across, which I will do with a fill command. Like so. Grass block. And now you have your second layer, except you don't quite, because the pillagers can only spawn in full light, or not full light, but they have to have sunlight in order to be able to spawn. And you can't even do that with torches, actually. You can't use them. So you're going to have to punch holes in this floor every now and then so that light from above can seep down into the lower levels. So these holes will start in this corner of the chunk, like so, just 1 block away from the corner, and then every 3 blocks punch another one, every 3 blocks punch another one, 3, then a punch, 3, then a punch, 3, then a punch, and do that all the way down until the end. And then once again do 3, and then a punch, 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 all the way down to that end for each of these holes. So either I showed that last clip in this tutorial, or I didn't, and it's in my spawning mechanics of pillagers video. Then so either I did or I didn't, basically. But regardless, it seems that lighting the platforms up with this many holes gives about the same number of spawns as lighting the platforms with this many holes. So you really don't have to bother with all that digging that I said you would in the last clip. So yeah, don't. At least not unless you're a fanatic, and I'm not even sure if it helps even then. So this is what I've done then. Instead of taking a chunk and breaking it into 4, so there's 1 hole and then another 4 blocks, and then another 3 blocks and then that, 3 blocks and then that, 3 blocks and then that. Instead of doing that, what I have done instead is the original hole and then 3 blocks and then a gap and then 3 blocks and then a hole, and I've repeated that all the way along this one, and then I've offset the next line. So this would be a hole, but it's not. 3 blocks and then this, 3 blocks and then another lack and then 3 blocks and then a hole. So it's just basically half the number, and I've also left out the middle row, by the way. That one. So half the number in the rows that are present, and offset the halves, and then that gets you a pretty good range. So regardless, you have your spawning platforms now. You can see quite a lot of activity on them, and the good thing about this is that you don't have to put in walls to block out light, because light is necessary for the spawns. So what you can do from here then is maybe put a couple of walls around the edge here so that they don't stray from where they ought to be. But we will be now digging pits for them to fall in when they're pushed off with slime machines. So I'm going to do that at the end with some fill commands to do them all, because you're going to have to put down another 3 blocks, and then another layer, and then another whole layer full of grass blocks all the way across. Of course, though you can do this, you could also just not. You could make it only 1 or 2 layers, and then you wouldn't have to deal with all of this punching and whatnot. So if you wanted to just make it less efficient by having less spawning spaces, but not have to deal with that, then by all means feel free. So keep building layers just like this all the way up until you finally end up reaching this glass layer here. So that'll end up with 1 layer there. Well, I should do the stone as the filler block. That'll with 1 layer there, and then another layer here, and another layer here. And, oh, not quite there. There. Although actually I'm not quite sure if they can spawn here. I'm just going to check that really quickly and I'll be right back. And so we discover one more thing about their spawning mechanics. They cannot spawn on this top layer, which is the glass layer, because their feet would be spawning here, and this is not inside the bounding box. So you're free to remove this last layer here. Well, you're free to never have placed it in the first place, rather. Alright, so that means that you have only a total of this bottom one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers to put into place. One at these 2 layers as well. So once you have your platforms in place, it's time to build some attractors for the Vindicators, or Pillagers. So the Pillagers will be spawning all around here, and they need to be moving towards, they need to be moved towards collection areas. And we're going to be doing that, as you can see, with a couple of villagers in cases. So I will show you how to build these in just a moment, but first I'll show you how to find out where you need to build them. Put on F3G to show the chunk borders, and head into one of the middle chunks. You will see that this one is right in the middle, offset 1 to the left. And the one over on the other side is, or should be, but apparently I did it just a little wrong. It should be in the middle, offset 1 to the, well, 1 to the left as well. But this one's left, not that one's left. So if you take a look at them like this, you can see that they aren't quite aligned, and that's what we want. I just aligned this one a little bit in the wrong direction. So instead of here, instead of here, which is where the opposite one is, this one here should be there, and I put it on the wrong side. So I'll be moving that in just a moment. But the basic idea is that you go to the side, go to the middle, and then that's the left side of the center is where you want to put it. And this just because you can't have a middle of the a middle block in an even area. This averages out the error in that area. So then, since I have to move this one anyway, let's go and try, and I'll show you how to build it. So once again, go to the center, offset to the left, and this is where your center blocks will go. So the first thing you need to do is place 3 trapdoors in the hole there, and open them. This will allow the Vindicators or Pillagers to fall down the hole. Then place a couple glass blocks off to the side, another 3 temporary blocks here for trapdoors, and then you can break those. Then go up 1 block and back another, place 3 more temp blocks and a couple permanent blocks here, and then some trapdoors across the back there, and remove those. Then go out 1 from the back of this trapdoor and place another block there, a couple other blocks along the outside, like so, and a slab, and another one there. Drill a hole in it, place a villager, and seal it off. And now you can see that the Vindicators, why do I keep calling them Vindicators? I don't know. You can see that the Pillagers are indeed heading over to their doom. So now you just need to do that with all other sides on all other layers, which is rather a lot. So then, once again, that's drilling a hole here, a couple trapdoors, and this one's slightly different in that it's directly beneath another one, so I'll be showing it to you on camera. It's still built the same, though, which is something you can keep in mind. So once again, just all this stuff that I was showing you there, and now you can see the reason for these trapdoors in the back that may have seemed pointless before. They keep the pillagers from escaping outside. See, they put together a wall. So then this is once again your villager spot, and you can put him like this. I tried to get one villager to do 2 layers, but unfortunately I couldn't figure that out. I don't know if it's possible, but if it is, then that's not what I've done here. But yeah, basically it's just the same thing, just built a couple blocks down. So then, once again, you need to build this on every side of these squares and on every layer as well, so that any pillager that spawns here anywhere will find a villager and fall down into their pit of doom. One thing that I did miss: you also need to place these glass blocks here, always. So I actually didn't miss that in the original show, but the second time around I did. Just be sure to do that then. So we have one of the sides fully built, but before I can show you this in action, we need to do one more thing quickly, and that is to expand the wall along this whole area on the bottom layer, or any layer that has access to the outside world. See, they can just walk out here. So we need a wall on these layers so that we can hold them inside, and so that they can't get to our villagers from using nefarious means. But anyway, so that bottom level is done now. Like I said, just put a wall so that they can't escape, and do the same on any portion of the area where they can just walk out and escape. So then, said walls are mostly in place. Apparently I forgot this part, but yeah, they are mostly in place. And you can see that we have a few illagers wandering around in that hole. And this brings us to the next portion of the tutorial. We need to take these pillagers and bring them up to the player so that the player can kill them. And the player is going to be situated right about here-ish, where the pillagers will spawn, but there won't be a whole lot of spawning going on in caves, and yeah, basically just a fairly decent spot to put them, centralized as well. So I will show you how to put these illager pipes. Just put in these illager pipes so that they will take the illagers up to the player. So then, we're still working on the same side of the build, and the thing we need to do now, like I said, is to put in the illager pipes. And what I've done from what you've seen last is I've put in a little piece of water here that will catch the pillagers that do fall down and bring them over until this portion here. And this is now just a pipeline, a water stream. And with it we can simply build up the walls with some glass or whatever, and basically make sure that the pipe goes wherever we want it to. Which brings us to, where do we want it to go? We're going to be building a platform, like I said at one point, up in the sky here. So the pipes are going to ship the pillagers all the way up and over to here for the player to slaughter them. So I've placed this this area right here, and what this is going to be is the area that the player stands and kills the pillagers. So this platform is 30 blocks off the top platform, and that's so as to reduce the number of caves that are loaded, but allow the Vindicators and Pillagers and whatever to spawn. So now we have a place to bring our Pillagers that we do capture to, and so we can either combine these pipes into one pipe and then bring them all up, or we can just bring them all up in their own respective pipes. I think it's probably going to be easier in the long run, and perhaps more glitchless, to just bring them up in their own pipes. This way there won't be any combination of mobs that might clog. And so we're just going to bring up this this pipeline here all the way up until the top, and basically just pipe the pillagers over into the middle. So for these pipes then, a good idea is to place them first and then fill them with ice like this, and then probably put away all your good tools and things, because when you finish this next step you're probably going to be dead. Game mode 0. And now break down through the ice, and this is going to take a while for me because I don't have any pickaxe. Let me give Appy. Okay. And now basically you just need to break your way down, and this will make a lot of water blocks. Then when you swim back up, place some signs every now and then so that the pillagers don't die. But game mode creative. But that's basically it, yeah. And then, like I said, put some signs here and there so that there's no drowning involved. Except that they're waterlogged now. So instead, put a block and then a sign. Like that. And now we have a little fountain of Vindicators, or Pillagers. Always say Vindicators. Anyway, so once you have your tube, and mine isn't actually done, so maybe I'll do a little /killing. Okay, so mine isn't actually done because I just need another sign or something here, and like that. Now it's still not done because it has to go all the way up until the platform there. So basically just do the same thing until you get to the right height, and once you're at that height, then you can begin the pipeline that will bring them over. And in fact, instead of going at the exact height of that platform, go 3 blocks above it, because you're going to need to drop the the pillagers down into a hole. Okay, so now our floor is here, and we can start bringing it over to the platform there, just like this. And when we get here, we will be dropping the pillagers down into a little hole here, so that we can swipe at them at our leisure. So then, I have a little chamber set up here. It's basically just raised off the floor one, so that we can put a couple slabs here and here, and that way they won't be able to shoot at us. And then we can hit their feet through their through that hole, and we will replace these 2 pieces of quartz with some hoppers and a chest over here, like so. And then these 2 can go here, and these 2 can go here, and these 2 can go here, and that's basically how we're going to have our platform arranged. Pretty snug. Obviously you can tweak this and scooch things around a little, but yeah, I'm just showing you how this is going to work overall. So it's time now to finish the rest of this water stream, so I need to get myself my ice, and I will see you in just a moment. So then I've put together the last couple of blocks in our main tunnel in the vertical part, but we still need to put a bit more into the side. And this is going to have to be done with a slightly different method because we don't want these guys clogging up as we farm them. So take a sign and place it where the water runs out, and then put another one there, and then put your water here, and that way there's no position in that area there that these vindicators or pillagers won't travel in. And I think right here we've got a little bit of a problem just because they all went in all at once because I unclogged them all at once. I don't think that'll be happening too frequently in the actual farm. Or not. So yeah, to fix that, just punch a hole here and put a little block there and basically just make that part too wide. And hopefully that'll solve all the problems, all the clogging problems. Now here, obviously the water's run out, so we need to continue with that pattern I showed you a little earlier. Get out of the way. Like this, and then with the water here. And I'm just going to head over here and I will put some signs in so that eventually when we do get to the water, when we do get to the next piece of water, things go well. So now this is a little bit close to the center, and that means we should be cutting this water off a little early and just making it like that. Pretty easy fix, really. Oh, and I've placed that sign just a little bit incorrectly. Does need to be there, though. Go away. Alright, there we go. And now they're flowing into the right places. Get away. But yeah, remember to put a ceiling on as well. And there we go. Things are working nicely. So now, tedious though it may seem, we have to make this again 3 times on the other sides, and then we'll have our area here where, you know, a communal area for the killing, and we can get all their drops. So what that's going to mean is basically just this whole villager area here needs to be built again and again with the pipe, so that they climb up and are flowed over to this area here, and then once you do that 3 more times after this one, you'll have your farm. So if you don't want to do it quite this many times, it's actually surprisingly effective to just use 2 villagers instead of 4. So that would probably be your best bet. And if you wanted, you could also shave off a couple pieces of the edge here, and that would make it pretty much perfect to have 2. But for maximum efficiency, you'll need to be using the entire spawning space that's provided to you by the bounding box, and you'll need to have 4 villagers to handle all that spawning. However, even just 1 is already looking pretty nice, so let's take a couple swings at these. And if we can get both of them, there we go. So you might want a sweeping edge sword, or you could also set up something a little bit more fancy than this collection system. As in, you could drop these guys until they have only 1 heart left or something. I don't really want to show that in this video because that's a fairly simple thing to do, really. So instead, I'm just going to be showing you this one here. And if you do make this one, I would recommend sweeping edge or something like that. So you could also put a couple of carpets there to get the XP, by the way. So I have now copied over that design that we had going earlier to all 4 sides, and you can see that we have some villagers from each. And that's just a little bit of proof that it is working. So if you want, I can spam a couple pillagers down here as if they were spawning, because they are. So as you can see, with all four of these villagers, there is basically no spot in this entire platform on which the pillagers cannot be seen. In fact, I think, yeah, they'll even go for the villagers here. So that's pretty good then. And if you wanted to, you would probably just stand in this area here with a looting sword and smack away at the pillagers until you got some emeralds. However, unfortunately, that's about all the time I have for today. It took a very long time to build and design this thing and figure out how the spawning mechanics work. So, hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and I shall see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.